So, with that being said, wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute after the show today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always such a pleasure and privilege to be able to chat about what I do, but also to be able to share it with you and your community. The honor is not lost on me. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. So let's get into what you're doing for getting the truth out there and all of the skills that you have. I want to begin with this question, though. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed the world, changed our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it refined the way that you do work and live today?
Wow, really important question. And I think one that even though we're starting to hear people continue the conversation around the pandemic, I do think that we're not talking about it enough. It really was a collective global trauma that I think so many of us repressed even thinking that we were doing okay with it. And that was very much me. I thought that I was doing okay, that I was using the extra time and space to be productive and create and do different work. But now, 6 years later, looking back, I'm like, that's when I started having some health issues that I didn't weren't necessarily COVID related, but just kind of popped up. And it's when I had to move back home. I was living in my college town at the time. I was in graduate school. And I had to move back home because all of the housing out there completely shut down. And being an adult living on your own, then moving back in with your parents, it certainly changes everything around what that day to day looks like. And I'm so lucky and blessed to have a family that I'm very close with and parents that support me and support what I do. And also, it is still one of my very good friends calls it revertigo when you get back with the early childhood things. You kind of revert back to some old patterns. So I would say the number one things that I did to focus on myself during that time was just going ham on my routine. I think it's so easy for sleep, the foods we're eating, exercise, self-care to be the first things that we lose when life gets crazy because it doesn't feel necessary. The things that feel necessary are these things we do for survival, like paying our bills, right? Like if someone is in charge of your paycheck, anything that they ask of you seems like it gets pushed to the very top of the to-do list when actually these things like meditation, journaling, sleep, whatever these routines look like for different people, really are matters of survival. And I'm really lucky that I had discovered these routines and elements that worked for me before the pandemic hit. So I could kind of say, okay, I need to fill some time with these things to really take care of myself. And I think the other side of that is now really reckoning with some of these. I have an autoimmune, I don't like saying disease, but health struggle that I deal with. And that's kind of been this weird correlation that I hold with that time in my life. And so coming back and really trying to get my health in order now with all of that has been bringing up a lot of those thoughts around the pandemic and how a lot of us have repressed it. So I think just conversations like this, talking about the fact that we all thought that we made it through, but not without some battle scars, and that it's okay to talk about the fact that it was hard for all of us. Of course it was,
Yeah.
is great. Just have a safe space to do that.
For sure. So let's get into the good work that you're doing on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of 13-year-olds. It's career day, and one of the kids wants you to synthesize your day job to make sense to their brains. How do you tell them what you do for a living?
Wonderful. I love to tell people that I am their partner in purpose. I help people find and make meaning by starting with what matters to them, what lights them up, what makes them excited. If I'm talking to 13-year-olds, I might say, let's start with your favorite subject, but then dig a little deeper. Why is that your favorite subject? What is it about English class that you get really excited for? Do you love reading the books? And is that because of the imagination? Do you love the way the teacher engages you in conversation? And what lies beyond just, I enjoy this? What is that why deeper? And then I help people bridge the gap between these things that light them up, that remind them of the spark that they've always had within them. And how can we take concrete steps to build a life that incorporates that? And that gets into my concept of coherence that I talk about a lot. But of course, what my day to day actually looks like, just like any old person, I tippy type on my laptop all day and answer emails. And of course, there's all of the normal organizational things that any job is going to come with. But I'm also extremely lucky to spend a lot of my time doing this, talking with great people who care about helping other people as well. But I also work one on one with individuals to do this work and in group settings. I lead workshops and group sessions to help people not only connect with themselves at this deeper level, but better understand the people in their lives as well. So it actually ties in quite nicely to kind of your first question about COVID and this collective community experience that we all had. I think the better that we understand our why, we tend to have more grace and patience with other people as well, and
Yeah.
knowing that they're asking these very human questions too. And how can we connect with one another on these things that we all face? What's the meaning of life? What am I doing here? And I just want to keep asking those questions all day, every day.
I love it. So, what did you want to be when you were 13? What was your dream job?
Yeah, so I had so many different dream jobs, and it's funny. I went through a really big fashion designer phase, which is just silly because I love clothes and makeup and all of the things, but it's certainly not my area of expertise. So it's just kind of funny looking back at that. But I also grew up acting and performing and would go out to LA for pilot seasons and loved being on stage, loved talking with people and the creative empathy work of like character study. And in doing a lot of my own self growth and self work, I've come to realize that all of these things that sparked my interest, it really wasn't about that thing on the surface. It was about this underlying why, and the connecting thread between all of them was wanting to understand the human experience and create something that makes that experience richer.
Yeah.
That was always that thread. And I am trying to now not just say that I'm an actor, a fashion designer. There was also, of course, singer and pop star in there at a certain point in time, but it really was always that underlying piece of wanting to understand what it means to be a human being.
So take me back to your roots. What was it about growing up, the seeds that were planted that gave you this sense of wonder and what it means and truth and to be highly driven and to do the work that you're doing today? How'd this happen?
Yeah. So I have a twofold answer for this because it does get a little bit into my broader belief system and worldview, but I do believe that there is a certain, I use the word spark because there's so many different words that we have to describe it, spirit, soul, chi, DNA, chakra systems. There's all of these wonderful methodologies of understanding what it is that we're born into this world with. And I think all of those languages are just trying to get at this same fundamental truth that we've all felt. And there was something that I do believe, I don't have a memory of ever not asking why and just being curious. And so I do think that there is a certain part of that, whatever we want to call it, that I've just always had. And I've always felt this drive that I want to do something. I want to do something big. I want to help people and I want to change the world. And also, I am so lucky and blessed to have the parents that I do. I am born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and Southern Baptist Christianity is certainly the water that we swim in down here. And when I first started experiencing this sense of sacredness about life, that was the language that I was given to understand what was going on, both through going to church relatively regularly, but also a few schools I've been to had a religious basis. But my parents were never dogmatic about their belief system. And even now, me and my parents all consider ourselves agnostic, for lack of a better term. And it was this interesting negotiation of I'm being given this way to understand it, while also my parents holding space for we still don't have all the answers. And I think having space for not knowing being modeled for me and being allowed in what I was doing made me feel free to be able to say, okay, we don't really know. Let's ask why. Let's explore, let's get curious. I also have an older brother who his story is certainly not mine to tell, but siblingship certainly informs a lot of who we are as individuals. And he had a lot of his own struggles growing up that taught me a lot about the complexities of the human psyche, of what empathy means, of what connection means, and what it really means to be loving and caring, and what you're willing to sacrifice for different people. And when the rubber meets the road, when life gets really hard, what are you willing to do? Who do you become in those really difficult moments? So having challenges at a very young age to step up, paired with this safety of exploring myself, I think allowed me to just say, I don't know. And I want to keep saying, I don't know. Certainly, there were the phases of, I need to cling to certainty and I'm going to try and figure out exactly what it is. And of course, I had the phase like we all did at 14, thinking I had it all figured out and I had it completely solved. And then, of course, that tower crumbles and you try
Yeah.
again. Um, and now I just hope to continue trying again and again and again.
So if you can meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find phenomenal, inspirational, that you could have a lunch with that might help you on your journey, who'd you love to hang out with and talk to?
Oh, that is such a hard question. There's so many amazing people doing such amazing work
Yeah.
that I would just love to like pick their brain on. The first one that comes to mind is Brene Brown.
Yeah.
For no surprise there, I love her work. I think that the conversation around vulnerability came at the perfect time with the pandemic, with all of the global things that we are all as human beings dealing with. The other one that comes to mind is RuPaul.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with their devotion to self-love.
Yeah.
I think that that is something that us as a society, especially in America, and especially as a woman, um, we've been told that it's not a pretty look to like yourself. It's kind of ugly to think that you're cool, to think that you're awesome, to think that you're capable of changing the world. And RuPaul was one of the first people that I was exposed to in media that I saw say, no, you have to.
Hmm.
You have to be obsessed with yourself, not just to create, co-create the life of your dreams, but also to be able to love and support the other people in your life well. And I just find that so deeply inspirational.
Yeah, RuPaul is just a monument to like just good. Just like
Yeah.
consistently year after year, there's always good messages, good work, everything. That all the shows are happy. It's good. So, what is the motivation for you every day to wake up to do this work, to change lives, to keep questioning, to do things that you do at a high level? What gets you up, whether you have an alarm clock or not? What gets you up and motivated every day?
Yeah. I do think that that is like the question, right? And if someone doesn't have an answer to that question, I would say that's my work. I help people answer that question for themselves. And I think so many people, so many of us have resigned ourselves to pushing that question down and not wanting to ask it. And so truly wanting to ask that question is the thing that is my answer to it as well. My education is more formally a philosophy background. And this is a little bit of a tricky question to tiptoe around, but I'll frame it delicately. There is a philosopher named Albert Camus whose work is extremely influential to me.
Yeah.
And he has this one question that he asks that truly is, why not end it all? Why not? And he doesn't mean it in this mean or discouraging way. He means it truthfully. All of us have an answer to that question, even if we don't think we do, because there is a reason why we are not choosing to opt out. There's a reason why we are continuing to move forward and choose to live this life. And whatever that is your answer there, I believe has to be your North Star. And that is what will allow you to express in this fullest, wholest, most coherent version of yourself, but also be able to best serve others too. And so for me, when I first heard that question and was asking these questions of myself, and I tapped into, I love asking that question. I love learning about myself. I love getting up in the morning and analyzing my dreams and figuring out how I feel today and trying to listen to what my body wants and needs, and then helping other people tap into that as well. I was like, the question is the thing for me, I think. And in some regard, I think that that's probably true of all of us because this is the question that is foundational to the human experience. And also, we have different ways of massaging our answers too. And I think that's how different beautiful creations of life come to be. I also want to throw out there, um, I have struggled with my mental health as well. And so that question is a deeply personal one to me. And if someone um, resonates with it in a philosophical sense, I just would want to encourage people to not be asking questions that could potentially bring up a mode of crisis without professional support and a really strong support system, because this is a hard thing to do on your own.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a much younger version of you. Let's say that, 13 to 15-year-old version of you figuring out life. And you walk into a room with your age and there's a film projector and you hit play and a 60-second highlight reel of your life comes up. Would that young version of you believe that life turned out this way?
I think so. I think so. And perhaps part of it is just that piece of me that I do think I was kind of born with that felt like wanted to make meaning and that my life was meaningful and that I was determined to live a meaningful life. I think part of perfectionist, overachieving, people pleaser 13, 14, 15-year-old Reese would certainly wish things were farther along and bigger and quicker, but me now would, I like to think, be able to have a conversation with them about how we've learned that rest is very sacred, that taking our time is part of the creative process, and that the journey is what we've come to fall in love with, not the end product. And I would really like to think that she would believe it. I think she would.
So, of that 60-second highlight reel, what are you the happiest about, the proudest of?
Hmm. Personally, I lived in Italy for a year completely on my own. I just kind of had a whim. I was traveling there with my family and I just felt called to that place. And now that I'm self-employed, I work for myself, I work from home. I said, well, I can work from home from anywhere. I can make home anywhere and just made it happen and moved to Italy completely on my own. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most rewarding, beautiful experience. I think everyone should live abroad in a different culture at least once in their life for an extended period of time. I learned so much about myself, about the world. I was so lucky to be able to travel as well. But professionally, there's a few of my clients that just stick out in my mind when you say that, of the thing that I'm proudest of. And there have been a few moments where I want to speak delicately so as not to cross any professional boundaries, but there have just been a few moments where some of my clients in our one-on-one work have shared things with me that have just floored me with how lucky I am to be able to witness someone's growth and someone's journey of falling in love with themselves that close, that intimately, that firsthand. It's just the greatest privilege to be able to. I always say in my work, technically, I am a master certified life coach. I don't really love the title life coach. I don't love guide. I don't love mentor. Like I said at the beginning, I'm your partner. I just want to be a mirror and walk alongside people doing this work as well. And to have people choose to show me the most intimate, vulnerable, tender underbelly parts of themselves and be excited about their growth and want to share that with me is just I would do that if I could do that every day for the rest of my life. Be I would die happy. It is just the coolest thing in the world to feel like I get to be party to that.
That's a perfect segue. And if anybody wants to reach out, they have questions, they want to hire you, any of the good business, where do they go to do that?
Yes, head to www.thecoherecollective.com. The Cohere Collective is my umbrella brand where I offer lots of different services and things underneath, but I offer life coaching and a few other different things similarly for group work that can all be found there. And on all the socials at the Cohere Collective. That's me. I get personal on there too and talk about what I'm up to and how I'm navigating these hard questions too. I would love to answer any questions anyone has, and I do a free 30-minute chat with anyone, even if it leads to nothing. If anyone has any questions, would love to be able to just chat.
I love it. I will put links in the show notes. Reese, this has been great. Thank you so much for your story, for your time. Keep changing the world. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Joe. I can't thank you enough.
You bet.